Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to show you a really simple soup recipe. This one is broccoli and leeks. So let's go ahead and get started with ingredients. I have 2 leeks here. I've cut them in half, cutting off the dark green parts. The parts we're going to use in the soup are these bottom white parts, and I'm going to clean and wash that section separately. The top, the green parts, I'm actually going to save and cook it in my next batch for vegetable stock. And here I have 1 rutabaga that has been peeled, and I'm going to cut that up into large cubes. And that will give a nice creamy flavor to the soup as well. You could also use potatoes if you didn't want to use a rutabaga. Here I've cut the leeks in half. This is a great way to expose the layers and then rinse them well. Leeks do grow pretty close to the ground, so you will have soil often in this part that's edible. So you want to rinse it really well, just to not have any grains or grass in there. And you can kind of separate it as you rinse, and that way you make sure they're really well washed. But it is worth the time because leeks do have a really subtle onion flavor, but it doesn't quite taste like onion. So, they're still easy to work with. And I'm going to cut them into half moons. I also decided to add some celery. I have 2 stalks here. I've cut off the ends. I'm just going to chop those up finely as well, and we're going to saute those together. And then one other ingredient is obviously the rutabaga. It's very similar to turnip, but it is actually a little bit sweeter than your traditional turnip or parsnip. Those are a little bit more peppery. So choose which one you like the best. This is the vegetables chopped up. And now I need to chop up the broccoli and some of the other ingredients. I also wanted to mention that about once a year, I send off my knives to get professionally sharpened in the mail. So Sharpenters is a great website. It's $20 per knife, minimum of 3 knives. They send you an envelope. You put in the knives in separate sleeves, send it off, and they return them back to you professionally sharpened. That's a great little tip if you like to have a really nice sharp knife, and that is really important in the kitchen. As I'm prepping my soup for tonight's dinner, I'm also making breakfast. So I usually have things going on simultaneously. I have scrambled eggs, and here I have frozen pancakes. So we usually make a large batch and then freeze what we don't eat. And that's another quick tip for, getting a quick breakfast together for kids or a large family. When I prepped my other vegetables, I realized I actually didn't have any broccoli in my fridge. So I had to buy some and continue the soup into the next day. So we're here in the next day, and now I have 2 heads of broccoli chopped up. I kept the other vegetables in the fridge. Rutabaga I just covered in cold water, that way it wouldn't brown. And just continue the soup the next day. Real life, sometimes I forget to get all the ingredients, or I think I had them, but I didn't. So you just have to kind of play it by ear sometimes. So to the soup, we're also going to be adding some sauteed carrots and onions and some garlic. And if you didn't already have any prepped, you could just start fresh. The rice cooker, again, as I said, has a simmer function on it. So you can a saute function on it. So you can saute the vegetables before you turn on the soup mode, which cooks it in the broth. Another great flavor in this soup would also be fennel. So don't be afraid to try new different vegetables that maybe you normally don't get at the produce section, but try new ones because they add a unique flavor, and it's a bit of a change up from your traditional recipes. I'm using the stalk of the broccoli too because, again, we're going to puree the soup, so you're not really going to get that texture of the stalk. It's all going to be blended together really well. To make it creamy, I'm going to use 1 can of this evaporated milk. This has been sitting in my pantry for quite some time, so I decided to use it in this recipe, but we will add it at the very end. It's not going to cook the entire time. And another thing you can do to make the soup creamy is add half and half or heavy cream also at the end, so maybe about 5 minutes from the end of the cooking time. Okay, and this is the sauteed carrots and onions and garlic that I froze in a previous video. So I'm going to use about half of that. And I've been using this in a lot of recipes, so I'm really glad I pre-made those, prepped ingredients. It saves a lot of time, and I didn't have to chop up onion and carrots today. They're already done and cooked, and there's already some seasonings in there as well. So I'm going to use about half in this soup. And the soup I'm going to be cooking in my rice cooker because it does have a soup setting. And we're actually going to start on the saute and simmer setting. So I am turning on the machine and then clicking saute. It's great that this machine can do both. So I've added about 3 tablespoons of olive oil, letting that heat up a little bit. And then I'm going to put in the vegetables that I'm going to saute, which will be leeks and celery because everything else is already sauteed. But if you hadn't done that step, you could add the onions here. You could add finely chopped carrots and some garlic. This is my homemade stock. This is from the recipe where I cooked turkey vegetable stock in a crock pot. And so I'm going to use a full jar of this, and we may need more. So I'm glad I had that on hand as well. The leeks have browned, so we're ready to combine all the ingredients. So I'm adding in my frozen sauteed carrots and onions. They will melt during the cooking time. I'm adding in the rutabaga. Now you could wait for everything to thaw out, but it won't really matter because the soup will cook for a few hours. The broccoli florets, and now I need to add enough either water or stock to cover the broccoli. So I ended up actually using 2 32-ounce jars of stock. So this is with all the broth poured in, 2 jars. It's almost to the top of the rice cooker, but with some space at the top, so you don't want to all overfill it past the max line. And at this point, I'm turning it off to reset that saute setting, and then you turn it back on, wait for the red lights to appear, and then you press soup. It defaults to 2 hours, and that is what I'm going to leave it on, but you could check in an hour to check the consistency of the vegetables. You really want them to be soft when you stick a knife through because you want to be able to blend them. After 2 hours, this is what it looks like. We have not added the evaporated milk yet, but this is where you would add it in. Another substitute for evaporated milk is also coconut milk, so that would be another great option. So the evaporated milk really does give it an instant creamy color. The chunks of rutabaga actually turn orange as it cooks, so that's a beautiful color, beautiful flavor. It kind of looks like chunks of pumpkin or butternut squash, but it's actually rutabaga. So now I'm going to actually ladle it out of this container, the liner of the rice cooker, carefully. I'm letting it cool down a little bit, and then I'm going to ladle it out into my blender. If you had an immersion blender, you could also use that, but I'm going to use my Ninja blender, and I will provide a link to the product as well if you're interested. It's a really super powerful blender, great for smoothies, and I like to do it for soups. I am not going to go to the top max line. I'm going to actually go down to 7 cups, so another couple inches lower, because the soup is so hot it will expand as it's being blended, so you need to leave some extra space at the top. And I'm also going to leave the lid open a little bit, cover it with a towel again to let the hot air escape, so that the lid doesn't explode on you. So this is how far I filled it. Out of the max 9 cups, I filled it up to the 7 line. And then this section here where you normally pour in extra liquids, I'm going to leave that open as I blend. So key note there, don't forget to leave that open. And to prevent splashing, like I said, use a clean towel, leave it on there loosely. Turning on my Ninja, and we're just gonna do, you could do a pulse, but I'm just gonna do puree, and it's gonna do its own countdown. So this is the final bowl of soup. This is what it looked like. I tasted a couple of spoonfuls and it's absolutely delicious. It's actually a flavor of like a vegetable medley, and so the broccoli is not very forward in this recipe. I think that the leeks and the rutabaga give it a nice earthy flavor to the soup. So it's really, it's just a really hearty soup. Really delicious. It has a little bit of a spice to it, even though I didn't put that much pepper in it. And I think that's also from the rutabaga and some of the spicy carrot sauté that I had. I topped it with some cheese, croutons, and green onions, but feel free to garnish it with anything that you like or your family likes. A dollop of sour cream would be delicious in this. I have extra toppings, so this is kind of like a serve yourself situation. It would be delicious with some crusty bread, maybe some slices of avocado. You can increase the spicy level, but this is a perfect kind of meal to eat for lunch or dinner on a cold, early spring kind of day. So I hope you try this recipe. Let me know if you like it, and stay tuned for more recipes. Thanks for watching. Have a great day, and I'll see you in my next one.